Greetings, traveler. If you have used dice in Dungeons and Dragons like these ones here, or perhaps like these ones, you have noticed that they have different colors. And you're probably wondering, why do dice have different colors if they're all basically the same? You might be thinking this is just a player preference, it's just for looks sake, but there's actually one more very important reason why dice can be grouped together by color. My name is Xanthos. I've been working in the games industry for over 14 years now. I've been playing D&D for about twice as much. And every time I went to a Dungeons and Dragons store, I would see all these beautiful dice, and I think, isn't this a bit excessive for dice? Surely one color is too boring, but do we need all this crazy variation and all these extravagant colors and color schemes and so on? Can't we just have something simple? And I thought this for a long time until I got into the situation where I found myself playing D&D slower and slower, not because of the way people were playing or monsters in combat or anything like that, but simply because it would take too long to go through the standard attacks every person and every monster does in combat and count up all the dice, bring them all together, re-roll what you need to re-roll, and so on. All this dice situation took too long. And then I came up with this advice that says basically, well, if you group every attack with a single color of dice, then you can have combat go by way faster. So that was a surprising use of dice colors in D&D combat for me, and this is what I want to break down now. So basically, this is for the situation in combat where, let's say, a character has a sword, and every round in combat he can make 2 sword attacks. So you need to roll one, probably d20, to see if the attack hits, and then you have to roll some other dice to see how much damage the sword does. Perhaps there is one die that's there for the basic sword damage, and there's another die that tells you the bonus magical or whatever damage the sword does. So the way we can use colored dice in combat is say, okay, so if this die tells us if we hit or not, and this one tells us the basic damage, and this one tells us how much bonus damage this attack deals, then, and we have 2 attacks in total, what if we roll all of these dice at once? So why would you do that? Well, if you have 2 attacks and you're going to do both of them in the turn, then you want to know if they hit and how much damage they do. Normally what a player would do is roll the attack for the first one, and if it hits, then roll the damage for the first one, and after that he would roll the attack for the second one, and then the damage for the second one, and perhaps the damage would be rolled 1 die at a time. And this of course would take time, and of course it would take even more time if the character has 3, 4 attacks and so on. So in order to speed up combat, what we can do is split the dice in colors, and instead of rolling 1 die at a time, roll all of them at once. And here's where the color comes in. Having them the same color tells you that they all belong to the same attack. So you know that the d20 will represent the attack and the other dice will represent the damage. You can even go a step further here, and if you think that if rather this is an attack that you can re-roll and keep the better of 2 results, you can have perhaps a second die, a second d20 of the same color, to represent that for that particular attack you have the ability to re-roll and keep the better one, so you can roll the second d20 at the same time as everything else. So the benefit of rolling everything at once is you check the d20 to see if that particular attack hit, and then if it did, you can just count up the dice that are already rolled for the damage. And because they're all the same color, it's easy to tell them apart on the game table than all the other dice. And here you might be thinking, and of course you can use the d20 of the same color to check the reroll result to see if you would rather use that result instead. So here you might be thinking that this is too obvious. Of course I know about this. This is very common. This is nothing new. And I completely agree with you, 100%. However, in my experience, even though me and all the players I have basically ever played with are aware of this technique, I have only seen it being used maybe 1 or 2 times in my whatever decades of D&D playing. So it's a trick that when you hear, you think, okay, yes, that makes a lot of sense, but actually on the game table, it's with everything that's going on, it's more difficult to use it in the spot and take advantage of this speed boost in the sometimes slow D&D combat. So anyway, I hope this reminds you of this great technique, and it gets you to enjoy all the different types of dice that there are out there. Of course, if you're going to be rolling more than one attack in a round, and let's say one attack is fire damage based and the other is lightning based, perhaps you could choose some red dice for one and some I don't know, purple or white damage for the other, and have it be all the more easy to understand and count when you roll them up and count them. Anyway, that's it for me for today. I hope this trick helps you, reminds you of the usefulness of all these wonderful dice that are out there. Thank you so much for your time, and as always, have fun.